that Raid Shadow Legends has released a new roadmap. They've done this through the Cirilla interviews, and I'm going to put them on a roadmap for you. The first thing that they will do in terms of immediately in the next patch is to improve the tavern, in the sense that when you level up champions using brews, it will no longer do the animation per 6 brews, and it will do it immediately. You can do, say, like, get me to level 50, right, using all the brews that I have. The second is that they will introduce new Doomtown champions. This is really, really exciting. And here are some prospective Doomtown champions. Look at this amazing graphics. I think this has been out for a while. It could be one of the new champions from Doomtown when the fragments finish and Gromlock is summoned. Beautiful, beautiful artwork. Looks like a dark elf, but could be anything really. Attack champion, definitely. This is a new beautiful Shadow King champion revealed very recently in I think in March or April. Looks absolutely beautiful. That beautiful kind of poem, little drums, possibly for medicine, cowish kind of demon symbols. Beautiful, beautiful. The next part is mailbox and champion storage. This will come very quickly as well. Here, what they're really talking about is how you can buy more packs, more silver, more shards to store in your mailbox. They'll increase mailbox by 100 and then increase champion storage by 100. Really, really needed. Nothing like pulling 10 shards, cleaning champions, pulling 10 shards, cleaning champions, right? You want to gamble faster. The next is the raid card for speed runs. What they'll do is they will combine multiple runs. So for example, you can do 2 or 3 runs using 2 or 3 runs energy to say cut down on time. It's almost like having extra speed, like 4x speed. The next part that will come in autumn, around August, which is not far away, is champion rebalance. And I want to talk to you about the top 10 champions I will rebalance. So, onto the champion changes. Now, I was really shocked when Plarium said that they will make champion rebalance changes, and one of the ones they guarantee is Pixnil. I just made a video on how to rebalance Pixnil, which I'll link there, and that's really amazing. It's almost like they watched my video and said, yeah, we need to make those changes. So here's my top 10, and hopefully some of them make it into Plarium's changes. I know that in these top 10, at least 5 or 6 is universal. Like everybody would agree that they need changes. And my ideas are not just based on actual end game play synergies with other champions, such as in Arena or in Doomtown, but also on the lore, right? The lore is super important in Raid. See my other lore video. Okay, so the first champion I will talk about is someone I've talked about extensively before, which is Pixnil. Pixnil is actually super important in lore. She is a former elven queen, well, fabled to be, fabled that she is a elven queen, or at least a very powerful mage, or possibly both. She is one of the key lieutenants of Arbiter, and she guards the northern path in the Winterlands. Her job is to secure the most hostile frozen territory up in the furthest north against Cyros' invasion. She is known to have defeated famous demon princes, possibly Prince Kaimar, and she patrols an area that even the dwarves like Torment are afraid of. So further north than Gurgle. She is meant to freeze her enemies in the snow and let them die very, very slowly. One of the issues with Pixnil is that a lot of her abilities have very low success percentages, even when booked. Like if you look at these, books just increase things by 15%, and her chances are like 25, 35 to as a base, right? Or even 20. So her chance of success is really low, and she's probably one of the worst champions, at least in Arena. Okay, so the way I would change her, like I said in my other video, is that I would make her use freeze in very innovative ways. Freeze, as you know, when you put on your allies, or your enemies for that matter, reduces damage by 25%. So that is equivalent to a strengthen, right? That cannot be removed. Think about that. If you freeze your own team, whilst they're being attacked, so whilst they're not taking a turn, right, they effectively have strengthened that cannot be removed. And it's not conditional on anything. It's pure damage mitigation. It's like almost having like a duchess in your team. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And it's not a passive that needs to be triggered in some kind of turn order. It's like a permanent ambient effect, right? That applies individually to each champion. Now, the problem is you're thinking, oh, you don't want to freeze yourself because you miss your turn and you miss your cooldowns. What her passive is meant to do then is to remove that freeze before your champions take a turn and then apply that freeze to the enemy team, right? Except the enemy doesn't have a pick snail, so they can't remove it and they'll miss their turn. So that's the idea, that she takes the risk of freezing her own team whilst not doing anything anyway, and then removing that freeze and giving it to the enemy. What you have to do is to get your turn meters and turn orders and speeds tuned properly so that Pixnell does this at the right time, right? That's the challenge. So I think that would be super fun, right? Shifting freeze in and out for your own benefit and at the enemy's peril, right? So that's the way I would change Pixnell. And that really goes with her lore of like this weaver of frost magic that protects her allies but harms the enemies. Okay, so that's the first champion I would change. The second champion I would change is Tila. Tila, as you all know, is an orc champion, one of the weakest legendaries in the game. Her abilities really don't do that much. Plays HP burn, right, on single target, and a really weak continuous heal. Attacks all enemies, has 85% placing leech and heal reduction. Like, who cares? A1, attacks one enemy, steals one random buff from the target. Okay, so she needs accuracy as well. Her base speed is really bad, 92. Okay, so here's how I would change Tila. The first thing I have to do is add at least 10 speed to her base speed. Tila is a fast raider in Orc lore, and she helped her tribe from near destruction or complete destruction to recovery, right? So that's the first thing I'll do. The second thing is her this Hex Drinker Scimitar. This is a sacred scimitar that is actually like a really amazing weapon that she had to journey really far into the west to seek out from a tomb. So I will make this a lot more powerful, right, than just say that, it's just steal one random buff. What I would say is that whenever she attacks, not just with her A1, but also with any ability, is that she uses the attack. She uses the base stats, so she's HP based. That is the highest for the enemy, right? So it's a bit like an Abyss ability, right? She will always use the stats, the strongest stat of the enemy. That could be HP, that could be attack, that could be defense. Then they're calculated in separate ways. So that's the way I would do it. That will make her super, super good, because you can build her for crit damage and speed only. Okay, so that's Tila. The next champion I would reform is Basilius, which is an elf. I don't know why I clicked ban. Why am I? Sorry, I'm just misclicking. It's not like I'm blind or anything. Okay, this guy here that nobody uses, Basilius Roanas, is actually the king of high elves, and for some time as well. For the king of high elves, I feel like he should have better abilities, right? His abilities are not bad, but there's just other people that can do better. A1 attacks one enemy, has 80% chance, 100 in books, of stealing one random buff from target. Has an 80% chance of placing block buffs, debuffs, for one turn if the target has no active buffs. Okay, that's not bad. Depends how hard it hits. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Okay, 3 hitter, ignores shield and block damage. Yeah, okay. As well as 50% of the target's defense. Okay, it's a 3 hitter. So if you think about champions such as Draxa, she has hit 4 times, ignores 50% of the target's defense on her A1, right? So the king of high elves should really be much stronger. If you think about Inquisitor Shamel, right? Inquisitor Shamel does a it can ignore up to 100% defense, right? And I think it's a 4-hitter, right? A3, attacks all enemies, has 50% chance of placing stun debuff for 1 turn, 50%, so 75% when booked. If you think about Astrolon, that's 100%. Decreases each target's turn meter by 50% if the stun debuff is not placed. If you think about, for example, Razing, that's 100% turn meter increase, right? This is only 50%. So I feel like he needs a major buff. So the first thing I'll do is that his base speed is fine, his attack is okay. I would change this ability. I would change this to an AoE. If this was an AoE, he would be the topmost nuker out there, right? But this is mitigated, right? This is not imbalanced for a few reasons. The first reason is that his attack is not super, right? The second reason is that he's force. And a lot of the kind of meta champions are spirits, so he'll weak hit. So as a force nuker, he'll be really good, but he's still a force nuker. And I think that's quite well balanced, actually. If you just did that, just make the A2 an AoE, that would be okay. The thing we don't want to do is just make them slightly better and still bad, right? Because their starting point is pretty bad, right? The next champion is a former High Elf, but now a Dark Elf, is Queen Eva. Queen Eva has amazing graphics, and she was part of the major storyline in the campaign. Attacks all enemies, decrease turn meter by 20%, resets the cooldown on each of the champion's skills if any target skill. So she is a campaign farmer, right? Or at least used to be a good campaign farmer. I think that's just better now because she can reset her AoE skills. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. Okay, so she has a block revive. That's kind of nice. Attacks one enemy has a 50% chance of placing a 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns. That's just 75% chance. Yeah, that's just really average. Her base stats of almost 1,700 attack is really good. Her base defense of 837 is really low, like one of the lowest. 101 speed is okay. So how would I buff her? This is a really nice ability, except it doesn't hit hard enough. 3 turn cooldown is nice. It's a tricky one. Because in lore, she was meant to have been charming and creating lots of issues with the alliances, I would give her some crowd control. I would say, for example, A2, if this ability does not kill the enemy, right, it removes all their buffs and puts sleep on them. I think that would be nice, right? And this cannot be resisted. That would be a very strong ability. Because often what you do is you want to damage something, but you know you can't kill them. And they have a lot of buffs. So you just want to strip that target's buffs. You're not interested in stripping everyone else's buffs. Because, for example, everyone else can be stripped by Kaimar, but this target, like a Duchess, has really high resistance. And you can't really kill it in a single hit, right? Not even a Rotos can kill it in a single hit. So if it doesn't get killed, then it removes all their buffs without passing any accuracy checks and puts sleep on them without an accuracy check. So she can go after Kaimar, right, to target that single champion which Kaimar couldn't do due to a weak hit or due to really high resistance. And that makes a lot of sense because Kaimar generally fails on 2 conditions. The first condition is that something has really high resistance, like a Siphi or a Duchess or something else, or that she weak hits against Candraphone, like a Force champion. Neither of which should be a problem for Queen Eva on her A2 if she has an irresistible sleep and buff removal, as long as she doesn't kill the champion, right? And she can always choose to use this on something really weak and kill them and block revive, like an enemy nuker, right? Like a Force nuker or a Spirit nuker. Attacks or enemy decrease the turn meter by 20%. I think that's okay. Resets the cooldown of each of this champion's skills if any target is killed. I think that's also okay. That's also okay. She can use this to clean up.
and then reset the cooldown of the A2, which has a short cooldown anyway, has a 15% extra chance to inflict a critical hit. This is a campaign farming kind of ability, right? That starter champions have. Because you built her 100% crit if you're in the arena. You wouldn't rely on this. So I feel like I would just buff the damage of the A3 by like 25% and apply leech, for example, so that she can do nightmare farming. That wouldn't be a bad idea, right? Just to make her a better campaign farmer. Okay, so now that we've covered these champions, let me see who's next on my list. So next on my list is Baron. Baron, where are you? There you are. I've got the best idea for Baron. I honestly have an amazing idea, guys, for Baron. I think Plarium should listen to this. Baron can be used in lots of innovative ways. Currently he's used mainly for his A1, the splash damage. Will attack all remaining enemies with any surplus damage. This is a huge surplus damage if the target is killed. Has a 10% chance to unlock a secret skill, Sky Piercer. No one's relying on Sky Piercer anywhere in this gameplay. But the splash damage, I've seen like 3 to 400k. Easily splash damage. Okay, so one idea that I've seen a long time ago, and I've tried, but it's really hard to work, is to use him instead of Sinesha in ally attack, to go last, kill someone with the A1, and splash 300k on everyone else. The problem is you can't guarantee that his final A1 can do the killing blow, etc. So it's nice that he's void, so you don't have to worry about affinities. But that's one way to use him, right? But it means you have to sacrifice Sinesha, and Sinesha generally is a much better finisher for ally attacks, and she has synergies with Skullcrown, etc., etc., right? So what really people should think about is why not give him ally attack? Look at this ability here, the A2. Attacks one enemy, places 60% decreased defense decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. This debuff is guaranteed. Guaranteed meaning that it penetrates any buffs, even block debuffs. One of the problems is ally attack is that you don't have a chance to land defense down unless you have a ghost spawn at the front that does attack up and defense down, right? But if the enemy have block debuffs or immunity set, then that defense down will not land, right? Some people use Ray or something else, just try to land a decreased defense. But the problem is, you need to build accuracy, and you also need to assume the enemy doesn't have immunity. If you have Baron as ally attacker, right, if he is instigating the ally attack, you could do Arbiter, Baron, A2. It does decreased defense, right, on the strongest enemy champion, like for example a Duchess or a Krisk or a Mountainkin, and then has everyone attack, including himself, on the A1 as splash. So you would build Baron, right, to be quite fast, but put him in the last position of the turn meter. So he would do, you would do Arbiter, Baron, boost his speed up by another 10 or 20 here to 280, 290, so you can get him to. And then he would do ally attack, then use his A1 finally to finish off. That would be sweet and perfect. He would do defense down. He would also have an excellent finisher to the ally attack. That would be Pog. And then he could trigger Sky Piercer. I could see ally attack making a comeback in Arena because of this, because of decreased defense that's irresistible and penetrates all buffs. And that this is a much stronger finisher for ally attack than, say, what Longbeard or Lanarkis has for their A1, which is basically redundant. So I would say, and he can unlock Sky Piercer. So you can build him super fast. You can build him in like, for example, trying to think. You don't need to build accuracy on him. You can build him like in SP set so that he has a better chance to survive and use Sky Piercer. Super Pog. Okay. And ally attack actually makes sense. In lore, he got lots of his allies to attack Minea and Krona and killed Minea, right? So that makes sense in lore as well. The next champion I will do is Growhack. I don't know why I'm clicking on demons more. I'm not awake today. It was so hot last night. Couldn't sleep properly. Growhack is covered in red from blood and of his own injuries. Eventually they couldn't heal properly, so he's just permanently covered in blood of himself and enemies. He is the new leader, the chieftain of the orcs, uniting all the tribes in a savage campaign against the elves of Aravia. He was almost successful until Basilius pushed him back, and they were due to a final showdown until Arbiter recruited them. Right? So he is a legend. His abilities are nice. I love that his abilities. I only just got him, by the way. Attacks one enemy, steals the target's turn meter. Right? Attacks all enemies, fills the champion's turn meter by 20% for each enemy under decreased speed debuff. So it needs to go with decreased speed. Attacks 2 times at random. Don't like that. Random can break CC and lots of issues. Each hit has a 35% chance, okay, 50 when booked, of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff. He's just a bit lackluster, right? I think he can be buffed a lot. So how would I buff him? The first thing is I would give him an extra passive, which says that the more injured he is, the more turn meter and damage he gets. So this combines almost like 2 set bonuses, like from Frenzy and something. From Frenzy and I can't remember what the other set is. Right? So boost his turn meter and boost his damage the more injured he is. And he's always like bloodied and injured. His base attack is not high. So 1487 is not brilliant. So he needs that. And he needs that turn meter boost as well from injury, because his base speed of 96 is not great either. So that's the first thing I would do. The second thing is that I would make this an AoE. Like apply decreased speed to everybody, right? 2 times a random basically means that this will not really trigger unless someone else is applying decreased speed for him. So that's how I would change him. Okay. The next champion we will look at is Skulllord. Yes, Mr. Meme. Skulllord Vargal. Skulllord Vargal is one of the final defenders of the dragon summoning shrine for the Lizardmen Empire. He, along with Krisk the Ageless, have defended that shrine from both initial barbarian invasions, which were successful, and then demon invasions thereafter. He has amazing stats. Look at that, 27k base HP. I mean, think about Osuga Warcaller. She is one of the highest base HPs, and she's 23k. 27k is insane. That makes him really good at ally protection and that kind of stuff. His base speed of 107 is really nice for a meat shield. Okay, and he has reasonable defense. 1300 is not high, but it's not low. A good HP champion or defense champion is 1500 to 1700. He has a base resist of 90, which is pretty high, and a base accuracy of 70 is also pretty high. Okay, so the first thing I'll change is his passive. Revive Skull Swan, which is a particular rare lizardman with 50% HP, 50% turn meter at the start of each turn. If there are multiple, only one of them will be revived. I would change this to be revive any lizardman, right? Not just Skull Swan. Nobody used Skull Swans in any competitive gameplay. I'll just say revive any lizardman. That would make him much stronger in faction wars, and then it would also make him interesting for arena, like if you had Krisk. One attack decreases the attacker's max HP by 5%. Okay, kind of useful for maybe some PvE content. Cannot decrease by more than 50%. Okay, has 50% chance of placing True Fear debuff on targets whose max HP decreased by 20% or more. Bit of a grind, not that useful. I would change this to say has a 50% chance of placing True Fear debuff on any target which basically has their max HP decreased. That will make max HP decreasing much more interesting in a lot of places, like even in arena, right? You could have a champion that does decrease max HP, for example, like Ethos A1, and then he would automatically apply True Fear, for example. So Skulllord, this passive would have a use. A3 attacks all enemies, has 75% chance of placing a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. This is okay. Like, I wouldn't change this too much, to be honest. Maybe I would say like decrease attack and then decrease speed or something like that, just to give it a bit more usefulness, or decrease accuracy, as seems to be the trend these days. Yes, decrease accuracy would be nice. So for example, the enemy nuke team goes first and, you know, applies all their debuffs and nukes you, and Skulllord survives, he's forced, right? And then the next time they try to do this, Skulllord can apply like a decreased accuracy, so that Madame has a, you know, the second time they go around to decreasing defense and nuking, they will have less success. A2 places a 25% strength and debuff buff on this champion, has a 75% chance of placing a provoke. I think this is a skill that needs the greatest change. Okay. So the first thing I'll do is I'll say places a 25% strengthen buff on this champion and ally protect on everyone else. That is a standard go-to for a meat shield, right? And it kind of makes sense that he's protecting all the lizard men, etc. So I would do that. Okay. And then has a 75% chance of placing provoke on one target enemy. I think is too small. I would say probably like 3 random enemies, for example. Not to make him too overpowering, but 3 random enemies is not overpowering at all. A1 attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit feels determined by 5%. Has a 30% chance to repeat this skill. 30% chance to repeat this skill isn't good, actually, because if he has lots of really useful buffs on, he'll lose them for minimal gain, right? Places a 100% heal reduction buff on target for 2 turns if this skill is repeated. Like, this is useless. Like, you would hope he doesn't repeat this. I don't want to change it too much. It's kind of just meh, really. I'll just leave it. Yeah, I'll just leave that. Okay, the next champion I would like to change is Suzurinkato, which is related to Skulllord. Suzurinkato is actually the champion that led the barbarian invasion, so he's an undead mage that led a bunch of barbarians that actually defeated Krisk and Skulllord and the Lizardmen faction at the shrine of the dragon summoning. And then this led to the weakening of the Lizardmen Empire and the arrival of the demons, right, led by Mortal Macap. So Suzurinkato has this ability here, which is amazing. Removes shield, block damage, and unkillable buffs from all enemies that attacks them. Places 100% heal reduction debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. The buff removal cannot be blocked or resisted. I will make just one change here. You can see how this might have defeated Krisk and Skulllord. I will make one change. Make the heal reduction debuff on all enemies for 2 turns irresistible as well, and cannot be blocked. So if you have block debuffs, the heal reduction will still go on. Why is this super important? You're like, well, who cares about heal reduction, right? First of all, regeneration is a huge part of Go second teams right now, right? Second is this would have really amazing synergy. 400 IQ synergy with Mortal Macap. Mortal Macap carries the follow-on invasion in lore and has this ability. Attacks all enemies 2 times. Each tier has 100% chance of placing block buffs, which is super important against, you know, unkillables and that kind of stuff. The block buffs, debuffs cannot be resisted if a target is under heal reduction debuff. Now, you don't want to build huge accuracy to Mortu. You don't want to build accuracy to Suzurinkato. If Suzurinkato could place heal reduction right? Removes all enemy shields and that kind of stuff. Irresistible. Heal reduction, irresistible. Block buffs here, irresistible, right? You would have, apart from decreased speed, decreased defense, you would have most of the major side debuffs up and without any accuracy check and cannot be stopped by block debuffs. That would be super nice. That would be super nice. Okay. So, we're coming up to our final few changes. The final two changes are changes which affect each other. It's Drax and Inithwe. Drax and Inithwe are actually twin brothers, which is not obvious in the game. Drax is a fire elemental, Inithwe is a void elemental, and they've been bound to the mortal Macap demon army. They're not bad themselves per se, but they currently serve the demons. Given that they're brothers, I thought of something interesting. One of the challenges with Inithwe is that his damage is quite low. He has amazing attack base stats, 1729. He has amazing passive, heals his champion by 30%. Enemies killed by this champion cannot be revived. But his damage isn't very high, right, for Arena. And you can understand, if it was, he'll be, OP. So one way I thought of it is that he increases his damage by 25% if Drax is on the same team, right? Twin brothers, right? That would be amazing. It makes you force you to play Drax, which doesn't make any sense if you're going for some kind of speed nuke block revive team. So for Drax, he is also really interesting because one of the issues is that Drax has really good passive, right? This passive applying HP burn on enemies when he gets hit, which is super useful, right? In PvE, especially the Doom Tower. And his resistance increased 10 for every enemy under HP burn debuff, stacks up to 50. That's kind of nice as like a spider tank and these kind of things, right? I would say what I would do is if Inithwe is on the same team, okay, I would give him a passive, which is kind of not OP at all. Is that if Inithwe either dies or if Inithwe kills someone, Drax would unleash both all his skills at the same time, which really isn't anything because it's just the A2 and the A1. He doesn't have an A3 or anything like that. So that would be kind of like a good synergy, brother synergy between the two of them. Right, that's all my 10 champions that I would change using these ways. I hope you enjoyed that.
After champion balances, the next part they will do is clan loyalty. I've been talking about this for a very long time in a lot of my earlier videos. A link is at the top, which is the greatest change I want to see to improve the culture of this game is to stop people jumping clans simply for a small benefit in either arena or CVC. Entire new clans are just being made up simply to exploit the CVC mechanism. Rather than deleting CVC, which is not a realistic solution, I think what they really should do is to build a loyalty bonus. That is to say, the more time you spend in a clan or cluster, the more points you get, and the more points you get, you can spend in a clan shop to get shards, to get faction war keys. We know faction war keys is like one of the most scarce resources because people need the glyphs to do their max 40 kind of missions, unless you never use glyphs your whole life and you just, collected them and hoarded them for the last 2 or 3 years. So therefore, I think that's super good. Imagine if they put a dupe system within clans. That would be amazing. So you can trade dupes between clanmates, but only if you've been clanmates for more than a year. That would be amazing. That really rewards loyalty and continuity in the game. The next part is that they will do Battle Pass 2. Battle Pass 2, I believe, is really, really awesome. As Macap said, it will probably have less value than Battle Pass 1, for sure. And I would like to see the lore expanded into the campaign between the Bannerlords and the Night Reverend in the Wastelands, the Stormwind Wastelands. They will also add new bosses to the Doom Tower before the end of the year, and their next priority, according to them, is apparently not necessarily a dupe system, but clan versus clan arena. I have no idea how they're going to do this, other than just having another additional element to CVC. They will probably add new factions. After all, there are 2 new factions to add, I believe magicians and woodland elves. Then the Hydro clan boss should come next. And I think what's really exciting about that is apparently it's going to be very much clan based rather than individual based. So, for example, if your clan doesn't kill all 4 heads, it resurrects and no one gets any loot. And finally, on their map is mythical artifact crafting. I don't know how this will go, to be honest, on top of what we have already. My hope is just to guarantee 6-star. You know, I don't need 7-star artifacts. I think just guaranteeing 6-star, making the glyphs more useful. Well, that's the roadmap. Leave in the comments what you think. I'm a bit disappointed by the lack of an immediate dupe system, if I'm being honest.